In this little town, on every street, you would find people from different parts of the world, different parts of the continent, and all living in the same community. A real melting pot in that regard.
Once I lived in Cottonwood and owned a little farm. When they called me down to Dixie, it caused me much alarm. To hoe the cane and cotton, I right away must go. But the reason why they sent me, I'm sure I do not know.
Welcome to Not Forgotten, a weekly podcast sharing the stories of a place known as Utah's Dixie, and brought to you by the Doc Booth Foundation. Through stories as universal as they are personal, this podcast is dedicated to the memory of legendary family physician Dr. Craig Booth and to defining, preserving, and perpetuating the spirit of Dixie embodied in his life and work.
Hi, I'm Lyman Hafen, host of the Not Forgotten podcast. For more than 40 years, I've been writing and publishing with the intent of connecting landscape and story in the American Southwest. I believe the words spoken by a character in a story by Barry Lopez. Everything is held together by stories, he said. That is all that is holding us together, stories and compassion. Dr. Craig Booth was a man of stories and compassion. His personal story is one of the many that have made Utah's Dixie what it is, and his compassion is at the heart of that elusive entity we call the Dixie Spirit. In today's episode, I'm going to do something different. I'm really excited and pleased and grateful that Donna Gentry has joined me today. Donna Leavitt Gentry, who grew up in St. George. We were classmates. She went to West Elementary and I went to East Elementary. But when we got to Woodward, we were classmates, and we've been classmates and friends ever since. She's such a dear friend and such a wonderful person. She exudes the Dixie spirit. She embodies the Dixie spirit, and she's a wonderful storyteller. I think she gets that from her dad. I think her dad was one of the great storytellers in a town that was full of amazing storytellers. But Donna and I, it's been 40 years ago, we teamed up on a little project. And it was something that we did in good humor with all the right motivations, as we were talking about and thinking about how we speak here in southwestern Utah, realizing that every section of the country has its own way of speaking, and that all of that is becoming homogenized as our media and everything brings us all together. We're all starting to sound more the same. But I don't think that Donna or I sound the same as everyone else. We were born here in Dixie. Some might say we were born here in Dixie. We grew up here. We are the beneficiaries of being part of this community and part of this culture that we love so much. And as we have experienced our lives here among some of the old-timers, we've heard a lot of different ways of pronouncing words and ways of speaking. Donna, you have such a sense of this. And when you came to me 40 years ago with this idea, tell me what you were thinking.
I just had people pick out where I was from just by the way I spoke. And it always surprised me because I didn't think I spoke any different than anybody else. But you'd be out of town and someone would say, "You're from Southern Utah, aren't you?" And I would be like, "How do you know that?" But they're like, "We can tell."
That's awesome. You approached me when St. George Magazine was in its infancy, and together we wrote an article called Speech Dixie Style. And in it, we brought together the elements of the uniqueness of how we speak here in southwestern Utah. And we related that to the fact that so many people came to this community in the 1860s and the 1870s from different parts of the country and different parts of Europe. And it's amazing to think if you were walking down the street in the 1870s or even 1880s or even at the turn of the century and beyond, that you would be running into people who were born in Scotland, who were born in Wales, who were born in different parts of England with all the distinct accents, who were born in Denmark, who were born in Sweden, and many who were born in Switzerland, who spoke German as their first language. And just imagine walking down any street in St. George, encountering someone and speaking to them. And maybe they were born in the United States of America, but that might have been in Georgia or Tennessee or those southern states where some of those first cotton farmers came from to establish the Dixie Mission. And it would have been a potpourri of accents and just a chorus of different voices, of words and manners of speaking. And all of that came together in a melting pot here. And my belief, and I think as Donna and I went through this, we think about our parents and the distinct way that they speak and how it relates back to either their Scottish or their Danish or whatever background that has come down through and gives us a unique way of speaking. But the part of this that we wanted to emphasize is that this is awesome. This is something we should be proud of. We do have a distinct way of speaking. It is filtering out more and more. I don't see it in my children or in my grandchildren, but it is there, and in the older generations, it's still there. And quite frankly, when we did write this story in 1984, it was the winter 84-85 edition of St. George Magazine. There were some who were offended by it because sometimes we feel like our speech, if people are responding to our speech, they're responding because they think it's inferior. I've always felt very proud of the way I talk, and to me it was not anything to be offended about, but perhaps to be proud of and to share. However, at the same time, it's important to know that when we shared this, we were doing it with tongue in cheek. Any kind of humor has a kernel of truth, but then it's exaggerated. And certainly what we shared was to some degree exaggerated. Donna, again, share with me your thoughts as to how you were or what it meant to you to share this story.
I know my older sisters especially. I have sisters that are 12 years older than me and some that are 10 and 8, but they spoke a lot more of this dialect than I did, and to listen to them talk and their friends, it just made me realize that it was starting to fade away a little bit, and maybe it would be great to keep it alive more than it was.
That's awesome. We had just started St. George Magazine, and we thought this would be such a fun story to do, and it ended up certainly being a really fun story to do, because in the 40 years since, in all the articles that I've done for St. George Magazine, this is the one that has attracted the most response. And Donna and I, we got our 15 minutes of fame from this story because the folks at KSL in Salt Lake City came down to St. George and did a story about this article. Donna, tell us your memories of that experience.
I just remember it was Don Olson who was the host of the program. Can't remember the name of it now. But he had a little show that he did weekly, and he came down and interviewed us and talked to us about it. He said a few things that I didn't realize we said, and one of them was realize and Nell. Those are the two I hadn't even picked up on.
So instead of realize, we
realized, and Nell instead of nail. And he, at the end of his little program, did a whole paragraph and just spoke as clearly as could be in this Southern dialect. And I asked him how he did that so well, and he said, I married a girl from Cedar. So he knew it well.
Oh, that's awesome. And then the story didn't go away.
No.
Talk about that,
It
Donna.
keeps reemerging. It goes in waves. It seems like all of a sudden somebody will come up and say, I saw you on YouTube the other day. And I'll be like, what? Oh, how to speak Southern Utah. And I get comments all the time. Never seems to cease.
It is amazing how I realize that viral is maybe overstating this because it's within a more of a confined audience, but it does, in waves, come back over the last probably since YouTube was, 15 years or whatever. It's come back in waves, and you'll be talking to somebody and they'll say, I saw you on YouTube yesterday. I'll go, that was 40 years ago. And they said, yeah, you looked a lot different then. But it's amazing how some things catch on and people enjoy. And I think that humor is universal. And if you can take things in good humor, that's a great way to connect.
And I loved one of the things you said in that piece, and I don't know if you were going to say this or not, but I loved at the ending, and I don't know the exact wording, that it's not how you talk, it's what you say that counts.
Exactly. And we all sound different in different ways, but what's important is what we say. I thought it might be fun to just share a little bit from the actual article today. And if I were going to retitle this, we call it Speech Dixie Style, I would probably, and I think that's the title of our episode today, I would call it D is for diversity. Now, I realize that there's much more to the word diversity than our little community here. But it's amazing to think that even though we all basically looked the same, so there wasn't diversity in how we looked. There was huge diversity in where we came from, in our backgrounds, in our cultures, in all of that. In this little town, on every street, you would find people from different parts of the world, different parts of the continent, and all living in the same community. A real melting pot in that regard. This part starts, you all know folks from Texas have a distinct accent, and those people from the deep south just let that southern drawl roll off the end of their tongues. Across the country, there are many different groups of people in many different regions who speak with a definite accent, even a dialect of their own. Utah's Dixie is no exception. We've got our own way of speaking, at least us natives do, and it's as prominent and as noticeable as the big D on the Black Hill above town. Most native Dixieites will recall a trip to Las Vegas, Southern California, or even Salt Lake City, where the question inevitably came up, "You're from Southern Utah, aren't you?" Donna, as I'm reading this, I'm realizing you wrote early drafts of this. It's had my byline. I think it had both of our bylines on it in the original magazine article, but now I've kind of co-opted it and put it in my book, Where Two Streams Meet. But I realized that there's so much of your writing in here. It's a mark that follows you everywhere. Like the two girls from St. George who spent a summer in Seattle and took a job at the local A&W. Every night, the same carload of boys came in to order, and every night they asked the girls to repeat the menu. It didn't take long for the girls to realize the guys knew exactly what was on the menu. They just wanted to hear those cute Southern Utah drawls and the way they said, orange?
Orange.
Orange. Donna, do you want to take it from here for a little bit?
Sure. It has been hypothesized that this strange phenomenon of southern Utah speech is linked to the potpourri of people who first came to the area. Brigham Young sent a wide mixture of folks here to settle the valley, people with different national origins and ethnic backgrounds. Among the first to come were the cotton growers who settled in the town of Washington. Many of them were bona fide Southerners from Georgia, Alabama, and Mississippi. No doubt they spoke with a heavy Southern bent. Some came from New England and southern Canada. Add to those the Swiss who settled in Santa Clara, the Scandinavian, English, and continental European immigrants who were part of the original St. George Company, and you have a veritable hodgepodge of vocabulary, pronunciation, and usage of language. Then came the miners at Silver Reef, mixing Chinese, Irish, Scottish, Cornish, and other variations into an already stewed-up mess. After a generation or so, when all of this had melted into one culture, we ended up with a society that sounded like it was barn and a born. That porks cores in a core port, and that often seems to put the court before the horse when it comes to conventional pronunciation.
So I put you on the spot there, but you read that cold very beautifully. Thank you. And here we are in this next section. For those newcomers or visitors who may find it challenging to carry on a conversation with a Dixie native, and for those who wish to brush up on Dixieese, here is a selected glossary. But remember, the mere act of learning the words and their meanings does not constitute complete comprehension. You must also learn how to place the words in sentences so as to get the right fill
or feel.
So I'm going to share some words that the listener may or may not know, and Donna's going to give us the definition. And this is the glossary that we shared in that original article. Airpart.
That's a tract of land maintained for the landing and taking off of aircraft.
Orange.
A globose berry. I don't know how to say globose. Is that what
That's
it is?
Good.
A globose berry with a reddish-yellow rind and sweet, edible pulp.
Bard.
With many of these, you can build a house, or what you become when things are getting monotonous.
Barn.
Many Christians are born again.
Born.
A large building for storage of farm products or the sheltering of animals.
California.
The furthermost south and west state in mainland USA. Also the place where Disneyland's found.
Car.
The remaining inedible section of an eaten apple.
Carn.
A yellow vegetable characterized by kernels which grow on a cob.
Carner.
A place where two streets intersect.
Cart.
A place where basketball's played or where a judge performs his or her duties.
Core.
Or an automobile.
Carpenter.
That's a person who cuts and nails bards.
Nails or nails?
Nails. It should be nails.
Oh. Court.
Do not get the horse before this.
Dorothy.
That's the girl played by Judy Garland in The Wizard of Oz.
Dork room.
A small, light-free room where film is developed, not to be confused with a dark room, which is a room specially designed for dorks.
Okay. This is really helpful, isn't it?
It should be.
Yeah. Dorling.
Real cute.
Dorn.
A slang word of disgust, or the process of mending socks.
Dort.
A sharp game piece which is thrown for accuracy.
Dortbard.
The object at which dorts are thrown.
Fard.
Have you driven one lately? That was a commercial back then.
Yeah, for those that might take some connecting.
You got to be a certain age to figure that one out.
Fark.
An eating utensil or a split in the road.
Farm.
A document which the government will have you fill out in triplicate.
Farmal.
The opposite of casual.
Okay, we may leave this one in or we may not. Fart.
A solidly built edifice used to defend oneself from one's enemies.
Floor.
Oh, what one walks on.
For.
A long, long way.
Form.
That's a place with a big red barn where you grow corn.
Former.
The man in charge of the farm.
Fur.
As in, for cute, for darling, for neat.
Gorgeous.
Beautiful.
Gordon.
A place where vegetables are grown.
Gorder.
Before pantyhose, they were used to hold up nylon stockings.
Harn.
That which is honked.
Hurricane.
A town 18 miles east of St. George.
Horde.
Or difficult.
Horp.
An instrument played by angels.
Hort.
An organ which pumps blood.
Jest.
As in, just for now, may be used interchangeably with gist.
Jor.
A container made of glass.
Lorge.
Big.
Mar.
Opposite of less.
Marnin.
A standard greeting in the AM.
Morket.
A place where you may buy items grown on the farm.
Moors.
The red planet.
Narth.
The opposite of south.
Orbeez.
A popular fast food place.
Or.
As in, where are you going? Not to be confused with are, which is that with which one paddles a boat.
Orc.
Noah's large sailing vessel.
Ort.
Music, ballet, paintings, literature, that kind of thing.
Par.
The act of transferring liquid from one container to another one.
Park.
Pig meat.
Pork.
What you do with your girlfriend or boyfriend on the Red Hill, or the place that has lots of green grass where you have a picnic.
Port.
One of the indefinite or unequal subdivisions into which something is divided and which together constitutes the whole.
Repart.
To give an account.
Sarful.
Sad or pitiful.
Sargum.
Dixie molasses.
Scar.
The outcome of a ball game.
Score.
The result of a surgical incision or a terrible wound.
Shart.
Not tall.
Shore.
When you're absolutely certain.
St. George.
A fast-growing city in the southwestern corner of Utah.
Star.
See Morket.
Stark.
A long-legged bird which delivers babies, not to be confused with Craig Booth.
Store.
A bright object which shines from the heavens at night.
Tor.
Black gooey stuff used to pave roads, or a journey for a business, pleasure, or education in which one returns to the starting point.
Tourist.
A person who's on a tour.
Torp.
That which covers something.
Varnish.
A liquid preparation which, when spread on a surface and allowed to dry, forms a lustrous, transparent coating.
Washington.
That's a city west of Hurricane.
Yar.
Of or relating to one or oneself. Yar core, yar sorghum, yar form.
All right. We made it. We made it all the way through the glossary. And this glossary is actually printed in my book, Where Two Streams Meet. And so if folks need some help, it's there and available, readily available. As this article concludes, it says, "It is hoped that the proceeding will aid you in understanding and communicating with Dixie natives. If you've studied carefully, you should be able to comprehend and follow instructions such as these." Donna, can you share those instructions?
I'm going to try my best. You get in your car, you drive down to where the par kid in those sorrowful orange shorts is standing, then go north to the next corner, turn and drive until you come to the farmyard, and you will see a deportment star on the other side of the street where you can get a large order of cornmeal corn in the Dorling cardboard box. Well, that's not the place. It's the star 2 doors north.
Excellent. So if you can comprehend those instructions, then you've pretty well integrated into the old Dixie culture. Who knows? If you're here for very long, you might start talking like this yourself. And if you do, don't be surprised if sometime, somewhere, when you least expect it, someone steps up to you and says, "You're from southern Utah, aren't you?" So let's just imagine you're walking down the street, you're walking down Tabernacle Street in St. George in the late 1800s. You might be walking along and encounter a woman walking toward you. Maybe it's Sister Smith, who was born in Tennessee. She might have sounded something like this.
It's so rich that she serves it over ice cream to cut the sweetness.
And you walk on down the street, you come to the corner of Main Street. There's the Tabernacle. There's the old buildings that lined Main Street going north. And there's Brother McAllister, who was born in Scotland.
The weather's never good. They always say in the borders, if the mist's on the Yordans, we never get the good weather. And as you can see today, there's no sunshine.
Then you turn up the street. You're headed up towards the old big house, or the Erastus Snow home that was the hotel in St. George. And there's Brother Richards walking toward you. He was born in Wales.
It's very late July. The sun is just about to set, and August is literally just around the corner. Where did that come from?
And then after you've spent a moment with Brother Richards, you head on up the street, up towards the Opera House, and there's an old gentleman with a gray beard. It's Brother Hafen, who was born in Switzerland.
We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
And now you've crossed what is now the boulevard, and you're heading on north up to the old Opera House, and coming out the door of the Opera House is Brother Walker, who was born in England.
Now, I likes that, because it gets to the core, see? And when you get to the core, you get the essence.
Donna, it's been such a delight to go back through and kind of relive this experience that we've had that goes back so far. I appreciate you being the good sport that you are and being part of this podcast today. I don't know if there's anything more you want to share as we go out.
It's always fun to talk to you, Lyman, and especially when we can talk and reminisce about good old Dixie.
And that's what this podcast is all about. We're trying to keep hold of that Dixie spirit. And as I said in the beginning, you, Donna, are a living embodiment of the Dixie spirit. Debbie and I love you. We appreciate your friendship through all of these years, and it's so fun to be able to spend this time with you today. Thank you.
Thank you.
The Doc Booth Foundation is dedicated to empowering individuals through educational opportunities and promoting mental health advocacy. Through scholarships and funding for important community needs, the foundation perpetuates the can-do spirit of the founders of this community, using the lessons of the past to chart the course for a better future. Make your tax-deductible donation at docboothfoundation.org. Not Forgotten is produced by Ricky Valadez and made possible by the generous support of St. George Area Zag Stores, industry-leading tech support and accessories. Lyman Hafen's books can be found at lymanhafen.com.
Once I lived in Cottonwood and owned a little farm. When they called me down to Dixie, it caused me much alarm. To hoe the cane and cotton, I right away must go. But the reason why they sent me, I'm sure I do not know. We came to Dixie winds whirl around me and take away my breath. I've had the chills and fever till I'm nearly shook to death. All earthly tribulations are but a moment here, and oh, if I prove faithful, a righteous crown I'll